Thank Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Chief Guest, Honorable Special Guest, respected Chair of the session, respected Director General of BIISS, distinguished speakers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to you all. On behalf of Bangladesh Institute of International and Strategic Studies, I welcome you all to today's seminar on 3 decades of BIMSTEC, Advancing Regional Cooperation for Shared Prosperity. Today, we are very honored to have amongst us Her Excellency Ms. Shama Obaid Islam MP, Honorable State Minister, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, as our chief guest. We are also very privileged to have with us His Excellency Ambassador Indramani Pandey, Secretary General of BIMSTEC, to join us as the special guest. Respected audience, today's program will begin with the welcome address by Major General ASM Ridwanur Rahman, Director General of BIISS. Then the chair of today's session, Major General ANM Muniruzzaman, retired, President, Bangladesh Institute of Peace and Security Studies, will commence the session. In today's session, the keynote presentation shall be delivered by Dr. Mahfuz Kabir, Research Director of BISS. Next, our special guest of today's seminar, His Excellency Ambassador Indramani Pandey, shall share his insightful thoughts on the topic. Thereafter, we will hear from our distinguished panelist, Dr. Rashiduzzaman, Professor, Department of International Relations, University of Dhaka, and Dr. Kazim Ariful Islam, Professor of Public Policy and Development Studies, University of Dhaka. Following the presentations, the floor will be open for discussion and interaction. Finally, the Honorable Chief Guest of today's seminar, Her Excellency Ms. Shama Obaid Islam MP, Honorable State Minister, shall share her valuable remarks. Following this, the concluding remarks by the session chair. Distinguished audience, I would now like to invite the Director General of BISS, Major General ASM Ridwanur Rahman, to please deliver the welcome address. Sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Chief Guest, Her Excellency Ms. Shama Obaid Islam MP, Honorable State Minister, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh. Respected special guest, His Excellency Ambassador Indramani Pandey, the Secretary General of BIMSTEC, Excellency Ambassadors and Head of Missions, esteemed Session Chair, distinguished keynote speaker and the panelists, August gathering, representatives from the media, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to you all. On behalf of BIS, a warm welcome to you all to today's seminar. 3 decades ago, BIMSTEC was born out of a simple but powerful conviction that the Bay of Bengal need not be a dividing line between the South and Southeast Asia. Instead, it could become a bridge connecting them. 30 years on, that conviction remains as relevant as ever. But relevance alone is not enough if some of the aspirations remain unfulfilled. Today, BIMSTEC represents more than a quarter of humanity. That is an extraordinary reservoir of potential. And yet, as perceived by many, the record of the last 3 decades is one of aspiration outpacing visible and meaningful outcomes. However, as I was sharing my thoughts with the Secretary General, he has a different view. I'm sure he will clarify his position during his speech. Our collective initiatives of restructuring the areas of cooperation into 7 distinct pillars with designated country leads are a coherent and comprehensive architecture. However, in practice or reality, while some pillars strive well, few are advancing steadily, there are few which are held back primarily by the absence of dedicated financing or due to unresolved bilateral tensions or simply because of insufficient political momentum. Learned audience, Bangladesh assumed the chairmanship of BIMSTEC for the 2025 to 2027 term in April last year, whereas the current government took charge in February this year. Strengthening regional cooperation and maintaining active participation in existing regional and sub-regional forums, including BIMSTEC, to foster mutual progress, collective development, and regional stability are principal commitments of our government, vividly delineated in their pre-election manifesto. Against this backdrop, this seminar has been organized to exchange views amongst the scholars, policymakers, and practitioners to explore pragmatic ways to advancing regional cooperation for shared prosperity. It is precisely because Bangladesh now holds both the chairmanship and hosts the BIMSTEC Secretariat that we bear a distinct responsibility and a unique opportunity to move this organization from what I call aspirational regionalism towards functional, strategic, and economic efficacy. It is high time that we collectively strive in the right direction so that regional cooperation does not remain a matter of rhetoric only. Instead, it turns out to be an operational reality. Distinguished guests, as the lead country for trade, investment, and development pillar, we are well placed to champion practical progress, including in the emerging blue economy sector, and to help position BIMSTEC as an institutional bridge linking South Asia, Southeast Asia, and even West or Central Asia, connecting, in effect, continental and maritime Asia into a single coherent framework of cooperation. Here, I would like to humbly remind the House about the statement made by our Honorable State Minister during her closing remarks in the last seminar of Revitalizing SARC, that we do not see SARC and BIMSTEC as mutually exclusive. Rather, they are complementary to each other. Today, our keynote speaker will highlight his assessment of the BIMSTEC journey so far and its next horizon. Before we listen to the perspectives from our distinguished panelists, His Excellency, the Secretary General of BIMSTEC, will share his valuable thoughts and insights looking at the affairs of this forum from within. I am sure he will also share his experience and key takeaways from the recently concluded fifth meeting of the BIMSTEC National Security Chiefs. This will be followed by an open forum discussion that I hope will be candid and rigorous rather than ceremonial. Our aim is not simply to celebrate 3 decades of BIMSTEC, but to introspectively determine where we have fallen short and to contrive evidence-based, actionable recommendations. Recommendations that we intend to carry forward to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as a genuine contribution of Bangladesh's stewardship of this chairmanship. Ladies and gentlemen, I am especially grateful to Her Excellency the Honorable State Minister for his kind consent to grace this event as the chief guest. We await hearing from her our government's strategy and roadmap to translating Bangladesh's first vision into a more effective and outward-looking regional engagement for shared prosperity. With that, I look forward to a substantive and forward-looking discussion. I once again thank you all for joining us this morning. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, respected Director General, sir, for sharing your insightful remarks and setting the tone for today's discussion. Respected audience, I now request the chair of today's session, Major General A.N.M. Muniruzzaman, sir, to kindly commence the event, sir.
Thank you. Honorable Chief Guest, Her Excellency Shama Ubaid Islam, MP, the State Minister in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Government of Bangladesh, Honorable Special Guest, His Excellency Ambassador Indramani Pandey, Secretary General BIMSTEC, Major General Ridwanur Rahman, Director General BIS, Excellencies, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. I'm delighted to be back here at the Institute after many years. This place holds a special place in my heart. I'm also extremely happy to see you wide awake after last night's exciting match. So we look forward to a very exciting morning again, discussing some of the key issues of a very important initiative, not only for Bangladesh, but also for the region. In today's interconnected world, no nation can achieve sustainable prosperity in isolation. Economic growth, climate resilience, energy security, technological innovation, and peace increasingly depend on regional cooperation. For South Asia and the Bay of Bengal region, BIMSTEC has emerged as one of the most promising platforms to translate this vision into reality. Established in 1997, the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, or BIMSTEC, brings 7 countries together on a common platform: Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. Collectively, these nations represent around 1.8 billion people and account for a significant share of the global economy. Over the past 3 decades, BIMSTEC has evolved from a modest regional initiative into a strategic bridge connecting South Asia and Southeast Asia. For Bangladesh, BIMSTEC is more than a regional organization. For us, it is a strategic opportunity. As a founding member situated at the heart of the Bay of Bengal, Bangladesh enjoys a unique geographical advantage. Our country's vision of becoming a regional hub for trade, connectivity, energy, and maritime cooperation aligns perfectly with BIMSTEC's objectives. Bangladesh has therefore consistently championed stronger regional integration through improved transport links, digital connectivity, trade facilitation, disaster management, blue economy initiatives. Projects such as development of deep sea ports, regional highways, cross-border energy cooperation can transform Bangladesh into a gateway between South and Southeast Asia. Such initiatives create employment, attract investment, and also help strengthen economic resilience against global and regional shocks such as conflicts, pandemics, outbreak, supply chain disruptions, and so on. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, while addressing BIMSTEC, it is impossible to ignore another very important regional organization or a platform, which is the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, or SARC. Founded in 1985, a concept mooted by President Ziaur Rahman in Bangladesh, SARC was envisioned as a primary platform for regional cooperation among South Asian nations. It achieved notable successes in areas such as education, public health, poverty alleviation, agriculture, and cultural exchanges. Yet, the disputes over member countries often has prevented SARC from realizing its full potential. As a result, many of the regional initiatives have faced severe delays, in many cases totally stalled. BIMSTEC should be viewed not as a replacement for SARC, but a complementary initiative to the SARC platform. While SARC represents the broader South Asian identity, BIMSTEC offers a more focused and pragmatic framework that connects South and Southeast Asia through the Bay of Bengal. In this case, BIMSTEC expands opportunities instead of narrowing the objectives of SARC. For South Asia as a whole, regional cooperation is no longer a matter of choice, but a necessity. Our region is home to the world's one of the largest population and a very large youth population, yet also faces some of the greatest challenges of poverty, unemployment, climate change, natural disasters, food insecurity, energy shortages, and public health crisis. None of these challenges represent national borders, but have to be faced collectively. Economic integration offers another immense opportunity for the region. Despite geographical proximity, inter-regional trade in South Asia remains amongst the lowest in the world. Simplifying and easing custom procedures, improving transport corridors, promoting digital commerce, and investing in cross-border infrastructure can unlock enormous economic potential for the region. The Bay of Bengal can become not only a body of water, but a dynamic corridor of commerce, innovation, and shared development. Energy cooperation is equally important. Cross-border electricity trade, renewable energy partnership, and regional power grids can improve energy security while supporting sustainable developments. Likewise, collaboration in science and technology, cybersecurity, healthcare, education, and innovation will prepare our region for opportunities and meet the challenges of the 21st century. Young citizens of South Asia have a vital role to play. We must promote dialogue amongst the population, particularly youth of the region. Regional organizations ultimately succeed not only because diplomatic arrangements are there, but because people believe in the organizations and they share a common future. With that note of optimism, may I now request our today's keynote speaker, Dr. Mahfouz Kabir, Research Director at BIPS, who will present his keynote paper. Dr. Kabir, you have the floor.
Thank you, respected chair of the session, honorable chief guest, this was special guest, and Director General of BISS, and also the fellow panelists, distinguished guests, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. So I'll be briefly making the presentation on towards an integrated BIMSTEC, strengthening sectoral cooperation for common future. So now we are in fact touching the 30th years of anniversary. And if we see briefly the background of establishment of BIMSTEC, it was a purely economic cooperation when it was established back in 1997, where I was an undergrad student, the third year student, and in fact suddenly I found that there is a news that there's a background declaration that in fact established the in fact regional organization. So and it's an unique in fact combination of in fact South Asia and Southeast Asia, so just bridging the two regions. So and it's a home of around 1.78 billion people, which is 22% of the global population, and its GDP is also huge. It's about 5% of the global GDP. So and it's a big market. So if we see the in fact size of the market, so number one is India. So with the 4.4 trillion dollars economy, and in fact next is Thailand, definitely $576 billion economy, and next is Bangladesh, $511 billion, and other countries are also coming up and becoming a vibrant market in the whole in fact regional bloc. So if we briefly see the in fact chronology of this organization, the already mentioned on the 6th of June 1997 through Bangkok Declaration, so it was established, and Asian Development Bank was the silent kind of partner, as a promoter of in fact, BIMSTEC. And afterwards, Myanmar entered in December 1997, and it was taken the name of BIMSTEC, Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Thailand Economic Cooperation. So and then a membership of Bhutan and Nepal on 8 February 2004. So how and why in Nepal and Bhutan? So in fact, Bhutan applied for the membership of WTO in 1999, and in fact, Nepal was already a member of GATT and afterwards the WTO. And in fact, according to the GATT, in fact, Article 4. So in fact, the adjacent countries of the nearest, in fact, coast. So it's allowed to in fact use the in fact bystander countries, in fact, physical facilities through different, I mean, if you see the multimodal connectivity. So they were allowed, and in fact, the organization thought that it's a good time to invite them. So, and they actually become the member. And afterwards, we see that the, in fact, first summit that adopted the BIMSTEC, the name, the current name, the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multisecular Technical and Economic Cooperation. And then we see the permanent secretariat in Dhaka, 4th of March 2014. And in fact, adoption of BIMSTEC Charter, so that was in fact, a breakthrough. Even after a long time, in 2022, 30th March, so this, in fact, organization got the charter, and the charter entered into force on 20th May 2024, subject to 2 years of adoption. So these are basically the broad, in fact, events chronology, but in between, there are a lot of developments. So if we see the BIMSTEC FTA, so the framework agreement was signed back in 2004, and afterwards there is a lot of discussion, and it was in fact supposed that the in fact FTA would be in fact implemented within 2006, because that time there was a discussion. I mean, the interministerial meeting was in fact taking place in Bangladesh in the Ministry of Commerce. So there, in fact, parallelly the discussions were taking place, and I was in fact fortunate to participate in a lot of meetings in the Ministry of Commerce regarding different things like the in fact negatively sensitive list, and in fact the other things like in rules of procedure. But afterwards, I mean, it was delayed. And in fact, I heard that when I was doing PhD, and my thesis was on BIMSTEC. So and in fact, I was scared that because that time and in 2008 and 9, so it was about to be signed. I mean, the BIMSTEC FTA, and a lot of discussion was taking place. The in fact exchange of the goods, exchange of services, technical cooperation, and the rules of procedure, all are being discussed. But suddenly, I mean, and this was in fact again delayed. So that was the thing. Now, the focus of the member states. Now, see, I mean, the initially few sectors and afterwards we see 14, in fact, themes, and now it's seven sectors. So, and Bangladesh is in charge of trade, investment, development, including the blue economy, and then Bhutan, environment, climate change, perfect match, and India security, including the counter-terrorism, disaster management, and in fact, energy center is also established in India, and Myanmar, agriculture and food security, and also bridge between the South and Southeast Asia, and Nepal, people to people contact, and tourism. So, and Sri Lanka, science, technology, innovation, and Thailand, connectivity, and visionary via the Bangkok Vision. Now we see as a vision document, which is called Prosperous, Resilient, and Open, in fact, BIMSTEC. So, and it's actually aligned with the Sustainable Development Goal, the SDC. Now, if you see the economic geography of Bay of Bengal, so we see a complementarity of the countries. So, starting from the Himalayan nations and then Northeast India with a different kind of geography, and afterwards we see Bangladesh and then India and Myanmar, Thailand, Sri Lanka. So, all these are in fact giving the complementarity to accessing the critical in fact connectivity networks and also the economies. So, and if we see Bangladesh is the apex of the bay and can connect the maritime routes and Northeast Indian landlocked Himalayan countries. And then if you see the other countries like the Bhutan and Nepal, they contribute hydropower potential. We see the 30, 40, 50, in fact, 1,000 megawatts of the potential, mostly unutilized. And also the great potential of tourism. And then, we also can learn in fact, how happiness can be generated. So from Bhutan. And India supplies the largest market with a lot of potential. So, and if we see the diversification of the economy, so it's number one. And then Thailand, probably they give the best opportunities for the other countries to access the market. So, and also the, in fact, land connectivity and also multimodal connectivity. In Myanmar is the territorial bridge between South and Southeast already mentioned, and Bay of Bengal and Andaman Sea. Sri Lanka close, in fact, and it has a major east-west shipping lanes, so that's very important. And they provide, in fact, they offer, in fact, a lot of in fact, benefits to the member countries through port and logistics. And Thailand connects the BIMSTEC and to the outward-oriented production network. So it's basically the we can consider as a hub, in fact, of the in fact the value chain and production network in both BIMSTEC countries and ASEANs. So now, what are the building blocks? Definitely economic, in fact, and geographical closeness, and diversity of factors and resource endowments. If we see the factors of production and the exchange of factors network, so it's one of the best in the world in terms of its potential. And scale and growth of the regional market. So the market is actually booming. So if we consider the whole, in fact, $5.47 trillion economy, and shared interest in connectivity. So all the countries are interested to develop connectivity and use each other's, in fact, physical facilities. So, and energy complementarity, we see different types of energy resources, including the traditional, in fact, fuel electricity, and also the, in fact, emerging renewable energy. So this gives it a special kind of, in fact, potential. So, an institutional renewal. So we see it started from BIMSTEC, and we see gradual, in fact, evolution of the institution, and we see the, in fact, secretariat in Dhaka. But it's not only the, in fact, secretariat centric organization, but we see in different countries there are different organization centers, so and facilities like that, technology transfer facilities. So all these are being established. So that's a good thing. And also the, in fact, political space for functional cooperation. That's also an important thing. And we don't have any excuse. Like in SAC, we have definitely an excuse of in the rivalry, but in this, in fact, organization, so we should not have any excuse for, in fact, delaying anything. So, and what are the stumbling blocks? So we know that to get institutional capacity of the SAC secretariat, so with the inadequate staffing and lack of research facility and lack of data, so all this we know in the secretariat. It's not only in the secretariat, but if we see the regional centers, center of energy and others, so this also lack the staffing and resources. So back in, I think, 2023, so we are in fact trying to land a project So on in fact management of Sundarbans. So with the support from the World Bank, the initial discussion was taking place. So but afterwards, I mean, it got delayed. So that's a unfortunate thing. But I think that BIMSTEC has the in fact the institutional, in fact the legal in fact, status to in fact land different projects, definitely bankable project. It's not only the transport connectivity master plan, but also many different projects of the common interest. And there is another, in fact, it should not be regarded as stumbling block, but it's an unfinished FTA, which is a matter of, in fact, concern. Because we started back in 2004 with the framework agreement. Afterwards, a lot of discussion, exchange of the goods, but I mean, so there is no timeline right now. Even though in fact, during the in fact year of in fact BIMSTEC charter and afterwards in the latest in fact summit. So we have the in fact pages of in fact signing the FTA at the earliest, but in the absence of the clear timeline of signing and in fact just in fact exchange of the goods. So this is not sufficient because the rules of origin discussion and also in fact technical support, the in fact the agreement on services. So all these are required. So and without that, I mean the FTA cannot be signed. So and asymmetry is also an important thing. And if you see the in fact the size of the economy is a great asymmetry, but the common thing and in fact the positive thing is that we have a positive mindset. So that's a very important thing. And the physical and regulatory fragmentation. So if you see the different nitty-gritties and in fact regulations in the different markets. So especially in the accessing the market through goods and services. So in fact it's an uneven kind of situation. So weak regional and commercial orientation. So that's also a stumbling block. So commercial orientation is not that significant. If we see the trade GDP ratio, it's not that encouraging. But if we see the trade GDP ratio or especially export GDP ratio of Vietnam, it's more than its GDP. So, but compared to that, in fact, the BIMSTEC countries is lagging behind, and in fact, shortage of data, accountability, and public participation. So we see some, in fact, programs at the university level and some programs organized by, in fact, some countries in the region, especially India. So they are, in fact, collaborating with the other think tanks and universities and sometimes the school students. But this concept of BIMSTEC, in fact, it's available in there in some of the textbook, but I mean, it's not that, in fact, kind of getting prominence in among the general citizens of the region. So that is a problem. Just very briefly about the, in fact, balance sheet. So what has actually happened, in fact, during this 30 years of journey. So a membership and strategic relevance. So we stable 7-member bridge between Southeast Asia. So that is, in fact, a good thing. And the institutional architecture. So secretariat that we got and in fact, a fairly decentralized kind of structure in terms of institution. So that is on also institutional asset. And then sectoral cooperation. That is also a positive, in fact, thing that we have seen over the years regarding the institution of the, in fact, establishment of different centers and facilities. So you can see, and trade and investment. So we see FTA agreement, but FTA also constitutes the, in fact, agreement on investment. So and we have, in fact, so far been able to, in fact, exchange the goods, and the text is ready, but in fact, other things are not yet complete. So that is a problem. And if we see the FDI inflow in the BIMSTEC member countries from, in fact, within the BIMSTEC countries, then I mean, it's not that encouraging. Where in fact, the inflow is mostly coming from India and Thailand. But otherwise, I mean, the Bangladesh is following a kind of selective mechanism. So with the, in fact, projects and organizations. So Bangladesh is now, in fact, investing in some countries like, I mean, the India and Thailand is a very small scale, but in fact it's growing. If we see the energy and resilience, so create a cooperation and energy center. So these are and also the weather, climate, and disaster mechanisms. So these are in place, and strategic direction includes the Bank of Vision 2030. But now this is the year of 2026. So we have just, I mean, 3.5 years. So and we have lot of targets, including the implementation of the connectivity master plan, and also the other sectoral visions. And now, so BIMSTEC Charter is basically a landmark kind of achievement, but there is another achievement. So I can see it's a long-standing partner of BIMSTEC, that is the Asian Development Bank, and then even ODC, the IFTI. So I recently attended a meeting in Bangkok organized by IFTI. So it's basically focusing on the food security issues, and IOR is also a partner. So these are partners, and actually, we are not that open to invite our partners. So we, in fact, BIMSTEC, a network of policy think tanks meeting. So we had long discussion. So regarding the new partners. So then we thought that BIMSTEC should remain, in fact, beyond controversy. So we can, if we increasingly, in fact, invite the partners, then it could create controversies. So and because of that, we are selectively, in fact, proceeding, and so that is basically our, in fact, collective thought from the, in fact, from the intellectual perspective. But I think the policymakers are also thinking of in fact, establishing partnership with the other organizations. So now, if we just briefly about the connectivity master plan, so included 267 projects, and which will require $124 billion, but it's in the, in fact, value of 2018. So that is the thing, and by this time, because of the inflation, and in fact the short problem in the supply chains, so I think it would require much more, in fact, amount of money. So the focus on 8 pillars, including road, railway, port, and trade facilitation. So these are in there, and the national single window of the different member countries, and also the other measures of the trade facilitation, addressing the non-tariff barriers, all are included. So it's a fantastic document. If you go through, you'll find that it's a big thing. So a lot of procedure, and everything is included, including the airport and land port. So these are all in there. And midterm review is conducted in 2025. So that is in there that prioritize the high impact infrastructure. So it's in there. So all these projects are listed, but the high priority projects are in the pipeline. Okay, so now if you see the other things like the trade logistics, so we see an attempt to integrate the regional value chain with the global value chain. So this in there, but there is a challenge of the value chain resilience because of the, in fact, war in the Middle East and also the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. So it's going on, and that creates a kind of threat. But I think if in fact collectively proceeded, then it's not a big issue because we can generate the, in fact, regional value chain and integrate with the global economy. So now very briefly about the sectoral progress. So and trade investment developments, Bangladesh. So FT working group is in there, business council, blue economy expert group. So these are all in there, and propose the fiscal and monetary policy group. So it's proposed, and then environment climate change joint working group has been in fact formed, and plan of action and matrix. So mountain economy expert group. So all this established. And then security in India's counter-terrorism, transnational crime. So it is covered, and other non-traditional security issues, in fact, beyond the food security. So these are all covered by India. So, and agriculture, food security, and 3 ministerial meetings held. So on agriculture, fisheries, and livestock plans. And regarding the people-to-people contract, actually the BIMSTEC network of policy think tanks. So it's working very well. So in fact, a number of meetings and demonstration programs are held in Thailand and also in Nepal and other countries. So, and science, technology, innovation. So actually the science, technology, innovation, public health, and HRD experts. So the mechanism is in there, and there's also technology transfer facility, TTF is in there. And regarding the connectivity, so transport working group is working, and there's a master plan. So we have been implementing the national project and the regional projects, and maritime and motor vehicles negotiations. So these are in place. But an important thing is that there is an agreement of maritime transport cooperation. So that is in operation in this year. So, and now very briefly about the trade flow. So if you see the merchandise trade flow, so it is actually, if you see the inter-dock trade flow, it's only 5.4% of the total impact trade flow within the impact group. So the groups group trade flow is the 5.2 to 4% of the world. But if we see the other, in fact, blocks like Mercosur, so 10 to 15%. If we see the European Union, 62%. So what about the, in fact, erstwhile NAFTA? Now the US, Canada, Mexico, the trade agreement. So it's about 50%. And then a nearby organization like ASEAN, so it has the, in fact, 22%. So they have the target of reaching 30% by the year 2030. So, but we are heavily lagging behind. Now, what about the trade potential? Very briefly, so I use the stochastic frontier panel gravity model, and I have seen that. So it's basically the unrealized trade potential. So for imports, so India has, in fact, about 34% import not realized, and the highest is for Thailand, so it's about 65%. And for export, so Bangladesh unrealized export potential is 44%, and Sri Lanka 73%. So this is the thing. So that means if we address the, in fact, beyond and behind border constraints, like the logistics, like the standard, like the sanitary phytosanitary issues, so then I think, and there are other issues like the anti-dumping duty and also restricted port of entry. So these are some of the, in fact, issues in among the BIMSTEC countries. So if we can, in fact, address, then in fact, we can realize the potential. And now, very briefly about the, in fact, possible effects of BIMSTEC FTA. So if we can sign, then I mean the trade effect would be significant. Now, for India, for example, so the, in fact, the trade effect would be 127%. So it's at best. That means India's import from within the BIMSTEC countries, it would be more than double. So that is a thing. But the revenue loss is not that significant for India. So it's only 6.2%, and for the other countries, so it's not that significant. But for different, in fact, elasticity assumptions, so the, in fact, Nepal's revenue loss would be around 55%. So, but it's an infinite elasticity assumptions. But so what, in fact, I have seen in different simulation models, so it's not that significant. So I'm at the end of my presentation. So now, if we see, what would be the way forward? So Bangladesh is the chairman right now. So it has to deliver. So that is the thing. And in fact, delivery mechanism should be connected with the foreign affairs, with the commerce, transport, shipping, customs, standard, investment agencies, and the secretariat. So it should have a, in fact, multi-dimensional network of implementation agencies. So, and in fact, Bangladesh should seek for political endorsement of a timeline of completing the FTA. So that's a must. So, and in fact, integrating Chattogram and Mongla port and also the Matarbari deep sea port, so is being constructed. So inland waterway, land ports, and road rail interfaces. So all these are required to be, in fact, accelerated. And Bangladesh should support the completion of the BIMSTEC deep interconnection master plan. So and also the Bangkok Vision 2030. So, and Bangladesh also should support the, in fact, digital payment, tourism, and in fact, small value trade settlement. And also, in fact, BIMSTEC Secretariat should, in fact, develop bankable projects. So we have seen the master plan, so large number of projects, but in fact, selectively, in fact, bank can also, in fact, there are different banks like the Asian Development Bank. So they are, in fact, supporting us. But in fact, the old bank, so they are interested. So we can, in fact, seek their support and, in fact, land some of the, in fact, important projects for, in fact, promoting the regional cooperation. And there is another concept which is called variable geometry. So that's very important, and we can, in fact, change the different conditions and so that we can optimize the benefit of the regional group. So finally, so if we see, so it's BIMSTEC is in an important juncture. So we have the vision 2030, the pro BIMSTEC. So and we don't have much time. So that is the thing. And in fact, the other organizations are proceeding, and in the value chain network, supply chain, all are being established. So there's a competition, the intense competition among the regional groups. So if we, in fact, continuously delay the signing of the FTA, so that would be giving a kind of negative signal to the members and also the other organizations. So they will, in fact, by this time will gain other benefits. So, and then transport connectivity master plan, so it has to be implemented. So at the earliest. So it's not only, in fact, listing the projects and in fact, giving, in fact, a continuous promises. So I think this is the time. So, and definitely cost, financing, regional, in fact, segments and responsible agencies. So the master plan has identified the agencies, but in fact, the agencies should be connected with the project, because sometimes the agencies don't know, in fact, they have the responsibilities. And secretariat should play in fact an role of coordinating and with the estimation of predictable funding and in fact technical staff. So we see the lack of technical staff in fact the secretariat, and integration must be there. So in fact the asymmetry is a reality, but we have the in fact positive mindset. So we want to be integrated. So and it should be realized. And definitely, my final argument is that BIMSTEC must build the constituencies beyond the central government. So the government is in there, but we have to promote the track to diplomacy. So that's a must. So business to business cooperation, the trade fair, and also the spreading the BIMSTEC among the public, among the school students, university students. So this is very much important. And if we fail that, so there would be integration, but it would be like piecemeal, like the bilateral, in fact, cooperation. But we don't want that. We need this organization to move forward. So with this positive note, I would like to end here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahfouz, for your keynote presentation, in which you elaborated many aspects of potential and the difficulties for BIMSTEC. It is now my distinct pleasure to invite Ambassador Indramani Pandey, Secretary General BIMSTEC, to deliver his address. Thank you. You have the floor, sir. Anywhere you prefer. You can speak from here also.
Your Excellency, Ms. Shama Ubaid Islam, Member of Parliament, Honorable Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Major General ASM Ridwanur Rahman, Director General of BIISS, Major General ANM Munirur Rahman, President Bangladesh Institute of Peace and Security Studies, Your Excellencies, very distinguished audience, it's great pleasure for me to come again to this prestigious institute. And I would like to begin by thanking BIISS for organizing this seminar on BIMSTEC and inviting me to participate in it. I would also like to thank Her Excellency Ms. Sama Ubaid Islam for her esteemed presence at this seminar, which clearly reflects the continued support of the government of Bangladesh for BIMSTEC. I would like to make a presentation, but let me add a disclaimer. In my presentation too, you would find sometime the same information which was contained in earlier presentation. So I may skip a few slides in the interest of time. Why I chose to make this presentation is because BIMSTEC is not very well known. Its agenda is not very familiar to the people. And at times, claims are made that BIMSTEC has not achieved anything, has not achieved much. So I thought it's time to address that question too. Again, with a disclaimer, when I say BIMSTEC has made significant progress, that's not to say that it could not have done better. It should have done better and it could do better, but we have made some progress. So let me begin my presentation. Let's just look at the global strategic scenario. We all know that the rules-based international order has collapsed, and we are going through a period of uncertainties in global politics, economy, and trade. In fact, even uncertainties are now unpredictable, so that adds to our challenge. At the same time, we are facing declining salience of global multilateralism. multilateral institutions, including UN organizations, are going through a difficult period where their budgets are being reduced and they have gone through staff reductions. In this global scenario, I believe regional multilateralism provides the way forward. It has always done so, but in the current scenario, it becomes even more relevant. And for very valid reasons that a small group of countries can do business together, can take decisions, can find convergences, and also can delineate acceptable solutions to address their unique challenges. This part you are familiar because it was mentioned that how 7 BIMSTEC member states, I think, yeah. So let me focus on agenda for cooperation under BIMSTEC. As you can see, we have about 18 to 19 very distinct areas of cooperation identified by our member states. I would like to underline that all these items on our agenda have been brought with consensus support from all the member states. So our agenda reflects the desire of our member states to engage in cooperation in all these areas. It was explained in detail by our earlier presentation. So let me skip to the next slide. This is the structure that we have, what we call core and sectoral mechanisms. So at the apex, it's moving very fast, I think.
You could reverse it.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah. At the apex, we have BIMSTEC Summit, and then we have it automatically is moving.
It's in a different mode.
Yeah. And then we have foreign ministers meeting, senior officials meeting.
That's how it's going. I think maybe you can go not a.
Yeah. Can we go to the next slide? So when we look at sectoral cooperation framework, we have in some sectors sectoral ministerial meetings and senior officials meeting in agriculture, culture, energy, health, poverty alleviation, security, tourism, and trade and investment sectors. In other sectors, the cooperation is supervised by foreign ministers and foreign secretaries meetings.
You go manually. Manually better.
Yeah.
Too much digital happening. Don't do a slideshow. Just do a manually.
But we never faced this challenge earlier. Can we go back to then the sectoral mechanisms? Yeah. So is it visible from the back rows?
Yeah.
I think they have size. No problem.
Okay. So I'm just trying to explain the kind of sectoral mechanisms we have. But in every sector, either we have a joint working group or the expert groups. In some sectors, we have technical groups and study groups. It was explained earlier too that we have a very unique system of designating lead member states for leading cooperation in a set of sectors. Why we have decided to do so? Because then every member state gets equal opportunity to contribute to the regional cooperation based on its own capacity to do so and its own choice of what kind of sectors it would like to lead. We have in all the sectors sectoral plans of action. We have negotiated some conventions, agreements, MOUs, and we have been able to establish center of excellence. And again, as was explained earlier, engaged in external partnerships. In these slides, I've just tried to explain what we have done in different sectors, because this is where there is lack of information about what we have done, what we are trying to do. So there is a sectoral action plan for agricultural cooperation. Then we have initiated process for establishing a BIMSTEC food reserve. There is a proposal to create a BIMSTEC seed bank, and India has just circulated the concept paper to all the member states. We would like to have more regional trade in agricultural commodities, and that's why there is a proposal to create a subgroup to look at this specific matter. We are focused on promoting climate resilient agriculture, and recently we created a network of agriculture research and development institutions of our member states. Can we go back? There is a proposal by India to set up a center of excellence in agriculture, and we are also cooperating in related sectors like fisheries and livestock. Connectivity has always been a very important sector. There is an agreed master plan which is being updated in cooperation with ADB. Recently, we signed agreement on maritime transport cooperation, which has been actually ratified by 4 member states, and it has entered into force for those member states. We are working with other 3 member states so that they can ratify it as soon as possible. Going beyond maritime connectivity, we are also looking at enhancing land connectivity through negotiating a BIMSTEC motor vehicles agreement. Then we have a proposal from India to establish a BIMSTEC Sustainable Maritime Transport Center. And 2 editions of BIMSTEC Ports Conclave have been convened. Now, I'll just like to inform the audience that when the review was conducted of the implementation status of Master Plan for Transport Connectivity, member states reported the initiatives that they have taken to implement the master plan. And it was found that about 60% of proposals contained in the master plan are under implementation by our member state. So we have made progress, and member states are committed to do their part in order to connect our region, each member state connected to the other. Culture has been a very important area of cooperation from the very beginning. So here we have set up a BIMSTEC Cultural Industries Commission and a BIMSTEC Cultural Industries Observatory. So you would have this question, why we want to focus on cultural industries, but actually cultural industries are very important tool for growth, and they have been growing at a very fast pace. Our member states are keen to exploit the synergy that they have, cultural synergy, by developing our cultural industries together. We again have a number of proposals, for example, to create a BIMSTEC cultural heritage inventory, develop BIMSTEC Buddhist circuit, a BIMSTEC network of cultural experts, and capacity development for professionals. To facilitate all this, Nepal has proposed to set up a center of excellence for cooperation in tourism and culture, the two sectors that it actually leads. And now we'll have a series of celebrations, cultural activities to mark our 30th anniversary. Disaster management, of course, has been an important area for our regional cooperation. So here again, we have a BIMSTEC action plan for disaster management. We have a proposal to establish a BIMSTEC Center of Excellence in Disaster Management so that we can coordinate our responses to disasters. And in order to be able to do so, we have already had 4 rounds of BIMSTEC disaster management exercises. And now we'll be moving ahead with real-time exercises among our member states. Recently, we have decided to create an expert group on women development because this was an area which was not on our agenda. And many of our partners felt that BIMSTEC should also focus on women development. Our member states are looking at creation of this expert group and nominating their members for this expert group. And very soon, I'm hopeful we'll have the first meeting of this group. Environment and climate change agenda is again very important for our regional cooperation together with mountain economy. We are all dealing with the consequences of climate change. Adaptation has become the highest priority for all of us. And that is where our plan of action is focused. Here, I would like to mention that BIMSTEC Center of Weather and Climate has been functional for a number of years. It has the meteorological departments of our member states as constituent members of the center, and it regularly engages in providing tailored weather forecasts, early warning, but also does capacity development for our member states. So the Center of Excellence for Weather and Climate has been very effective, and that is what has motivated our member states to create more centers of excellence, which would then become the nerve centers for regional cooperation in those areas. In energy, our focus has so far been on BIMSTEC grid interconnection. The informed audience would understand why we have prioritized it, because some of our member states need more power, some have capacity to produce more power, and if there is interconnected grid, then all the member states would benefit either by supplying more power or importing more power when they need. BIMSTEC Energy Center, which became functional only a year ago, has been engaged in capacity building, and some of their capacity building initiatives were very successful, inviting participation of over 150 to 160 experts, because our member states felt that technical capacity building in power sector remains very important for them. Health is another very important area of cooperation. It is led by Sri Lanka. We already have a plan of action on health cooperation. And this is one sector where we have a project with the World Bank being implemented through Food and Agriculture Organization to strengthen our member states' capacity for pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response. Then in October this year, we'll have inaugural meeting of our BIMSTEC health ministers and health secretaries before that, in order to look at the entire agenda of cooperation in health sector and indicate the areas where we should move forward in future. Sri Lanka has proposed to establish a center of excellence for public health, but Thailand has already planned to set up a BIMSTEC Center of Excellence on tropical medicine. And then there is a proposal from India to set up a Center of Excellence in traditional medicine. So what it demonstrates that our member states are very keen to strengthen cooperation in health sector. And even though Sri Lanka is the lead member state, but Thailand has come forward with a proposal to set up a center of excellence in tropical medicine. India is proposing to set up a center of excellence in traditional medicine. So all the member states are very keen to work together. People-to-people contact platforms remain very important. We have a network of policy think tanks of our member states. And recently, our member states have responded positively to associate more think tanks with this network so that there is more fertile exchange of views. There is a plan to create an association of BIMSTEC speakers and parliamentarians, which will then bring together our very important parliamentary institutions. And BIMSTEC youth engagements and sports events have been organized, and there are plans by our member state to do more in that sector. Similarly, in science, technology, and innovation, I would like to just point out one initiative, which is to create a BIMSTEC technology transfer facility. We have already our member states agreement on memorandum of association. Host country agreement is likely to be signed very soon. But even before formal inauguration of the facility, the Board of Governors is going to meet next week to identify the ways in which our member states can benefit from technology transfer. And thinking ahead, we are already working with World Intellectual Property Organization for some capacity building in IPR issues for our member states, which would have impact on technology transfer. Security cooperation has always been considered very important for our member states. From the very beginning, it was a priority. In security sector, so far we had a joint working group which was set up in 2005. It has met 10 times so far. We have already negotiated a convention on cooperation in counterterrorism, transnational crime, and drug trafficking, which has entered into force and is under implementation. We have also signed another convention on mutual legal assistance in criminal matters. It is waiting for ratification by just one member state for its entry into force. Going forward, we are negotiating 3 more conventions, one on human trafficking, one on extradition, and one on transfer of convicted persons. In order to take forward cooperation in security sector, our leaders agreed at the last summit to institutionalize BIMSTEC Home Ministers meeting. And since India leads security sector, so first meeting is being hosted by India in October 2026 in New Delhi. This will help us in strengthening our cooperation in security sector. Cyber security being a very important area for our BIMSTEC member state, we have agreed on a 5-year action plan. Similarly, on drug control, we have a BIMSTEC plan of action, which has been negotiated and already approved. Go to the next. While the Home Minister's mechanism would begin with its inaugural meeting in October, BIMSTEC leaders had decided in 2016 to create a mechanism of meeting of BIMSTEC national security chiefs or national security advisors. So they have met already 5 times since then. The 5th meeting was, in fact, just a couple of days ago in New Delhi, where BIMSTEC national security advisors participated. Some were represented through their defense secretaries and home secretaries. 2 very important guidelines were approved, one for maritime component of HADR, and the other was BIMSTEC guiding principles for conduct by the law enforcement agencies during their interaction at sea. We have also finalized BIMSTEC guidelines for coordinated marine oil spill response. It's just waiting for comment by one member state before it is formally approved. And given our important work in preventing financing of terrorism and money laundering, APG has recognized us as an observer, and now we regularly participate in the activities of APG. The National Security Advisors mechanism has focused on maritime security, cyber security, human security, and there were some significant decisions taken at the last meeting to strengthen our cooperation in all these areas. But at the last meeting, our national security advisors also identified a number of new areas where we should engage in cooperation, and formal processes would be launched to initiate cooperation in those areas. Since the discussion was confidential, I'm not in a position to share more about the areas for future cooperation agreed by our national security advisors. Tourism remains very important for all our member states. As we are speaking, our BIMSTEC network of tour operators would be meeting. We are looking at a number of BIMSTEC tourism circuit so that we could have all the member states participating equally in development of tourism. We have a tourism development fund, which is functional. We have a BIMSTEC Tourism Information Center. So as you can see, we have taken a number of initiatives to promote tourism, and very soon we'll see significant results on the ground. At the same time, our member states are also considering measures to enhance ease of travel, including visa facilitation. So there is already an agreed BIMSTEC visa facilitation scheme, which is being examined by our member states for implementation. This is the sector which is led by Bangladesh, trade and investment, and there was a detailed presentation about our status of progress in this sector. We have 6 separate working groups negotiating constituent agreements: trade in goods, trade in services, investments, dispute settlement, customs cooperation, and trade facilitation. We have made significant progress in negotiating some of these constituent agreements, and I'm quite confident that very soon we might be able to successfully conclude agreements in some of these areas. But looking beyond FTA, which is very important in itself, we are looking at a proposal to set up a BIMSTEC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which will be again something led by Bangladesh. There is a proposal under consideration of our member state to create a platform for our investment promotion authorities, because we need to also encourage intra-BIMSTEC investments. And as was mentioned in earlier presentation, we have created a separate expert group on fiscal and monetary policy coordination. It was a proposal made by Sri Lanka, and with the agreement of all the member states, the expert group has been created, and it will hold its first meeting next month in Colombo. I have already mentioned some of the agreements and conventions that we have been able to negotiate. So we'll move to the next slide. These are the 4 facilities which are either fully functional or, in case of BIMSTEC technology transfer facility, going to be functional very soon. But if you look at the proposals that we have from our member states, so Center of Excellence in Agriculture, in disaster management, in maritime transport, traditional medicine, tropical medicine, public audit, tourism, skill development, which is proposed by Bangladesh, and Public Center of Excellence for Public Health in Sri Lanka. Once we have all these centers functional, actually you would see the benefits of regional cooperation on the ground, because these centers are autonomous in their functioning and they engage in real cooperation, tangible cooperation on the ground. Our external partners, at present, we have only 4 external partners. ADB has been our partner since 2005. PRI became our partner in 2022. With UNODC and IORA, we signed MOU only last year. But with UNODC, we are looking at a plan of action for in both the areas, in drug control and in organized crime. That plan of action has been shared with the member states. And once we have the concurrence of the member states, we'll be going forward with its implementation. But BIMSTEC is also exploring cooperation with a number of other organizations, which I have listed there. ASEAN, of course, is our sister organization, with Thailand and Myanmar as members of ASEAN. Then we have UN organizations, international organizations. So we have already engaged with them in communication, in identifying areas of cooperation, and in some cases we have already implemented projects. Now, why I'm very positive about BIMSTEC, and I believe it is poised to emerge as a leading regional organization in Indo-Pacific, because we are in a very vital part of Indo-Pacific. Now we have created every institutional mechanism that we needed, we already have. We have a very vast agenda. As I mentioned, 17 to 18 areas of cooperation. Very importantly for us, BIMSTEC continues to enjoy the political support of all its members. It has stayed away from political issues and has focused on engaging in tangible cooperation. We are undergoing through a process of reforms and revitalization, and I'm confident that in years to come, will emerge as an efficient, effective, and dynamic regional organization. In subsequent 3 slides, we'll highlight Bangladesh and BIMSTEC.
Just go with the slides.
Yeah. It's one of the founding members, Prime Minister of Bangladesh had participated in the very first summit, and since then it has been playing very important role. It hosts the secretariat, and it has assumed its chairmanship since the 6th summit in April 2025. We'll go to the last slide, conclusion. It's my firm conviction that regional cooperation is a prerequisite for development and security of our region, and BIMSTEC platform is the most appropriate platform at present to realize that goal. BIMSTEC serves the core security and developmental interest of Bangladesh as well as other member states. In Bangladesh, it has enjoyed bipartisan support. I would like to mention here that in the very first summit, it was late Prime Minister Begum Khalida Zia who had represented Bangladesh and had conveyed her very strong support for strengthening BIMSTEC. So I believe that it enjoys support of all the political parties here. To Bangladesh, BIMSTEC chairmanship presents a historic opportunity to lead regional cooperation under BIMSTEC. And my own view is that comparison between BIMSTEC and SAARC is misleading and misplaced, and it hurts the interest of BIMSTEC. We are 2 different organizations with 2 different charters, with 2 different ways of working, and it's unfair to BIMSTEC to compare it with SAARC. And that's why my appeal to you all would be, please look at BIMSTEC as a independent entity, not in the context of SAARC, but in the context of the need for regional cooperation in our region and the role that it has played and the role that it can play in future. Thank you very much for your patience. I think presentation has gone far longer than I thought, but My purpose was to inform the audience, to make this point that we have done a lot actually on the ground, and in future will be engaged in far more cooperation than we have done in the past. Our past performance should not be the basis for looking at our future performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Pandey. You're very right telling me in the morning that much has happened on the ground, which is not known to the people. So maybe I suggest the BIMSTEC Secretariat in general or in particular can have a better communication strategy to inform the member states and the people. I'm really impressed that much has happened on the ground. I shall now turn to our distinguished panelists to reflect on the presentation this morning and on the whole subject of BIMSTEC. Due to a shortage of time, particularly for our chief guest, we shall now squeeze it to 10 minutes for each panelist. So we shall start with Dr. Rashiduzzaman. You have the floor.
Distinguished audience, due to the paucity of time, I'll try to be brief. I wanted to join cadet college. My parents did not allow me. I wanted to join the military. My parents did not allow me. But I try to avoid by rules and regulations. So let us start. I start by pointing out three quotations, very important, ladies and gentlemen. Number one, we talk about Jean Monnet, the man who created, the mastermind behind the European Union. And of course, the way he summed up his life. Man's finest profession is that of uniting men. The second, which was written by one of my students of PMIRD, or an officer of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, he quoted, he did not ask how we can control Germany. Instead, he asked, how do we bind Germany and France together so tightly that they cannot fight amongst themselves? Again, the issues which were raised by the Honorable Secretary General, I think this is summed up over here. And lastly, I quote the Mexican poet, Alfred Ortega, on borders, a line, half water, half metal. So the way we conceive of borders, the way we think that these are solid, of course, that is not, and that is why cooperation is so important. These issues have already been covered. The important issue is this: connectivity may be the engine of BIMSTEC, but security is the foundation. Until and unless we take security into consideration, it is very difficult to sell the idea of regional cooperation. The reason for that is that we are facing a lot of security challenges. And of course, my objective is to go through those very quickly and present them to you. Number one, the big issue is, of course, the forcibly displaced Myanmar nationals. 1.2 million Rohingya concentrated in Cox's Bazar, now in its second decade. Bangladesh sees it as an exceptional humanitarian issue with complex border, maritime, and transnational security challenges for the whole region. Continuing risk of fresh influx that is there. I'm sure you have heard about the case of the 500 missing Rohingyas just earlier this month. And of course, this sums up the situation, people making perilous journeys across the Andaman Sea to Southeast Asia. Bangladesh's constant position has been safe, voluntary, dignified repatriation is the only durable solution. But of course, 2 decades, people are confined there. So these are increasingly seen as hotspots for arms, drug smuggling, human trafficking, and other cross-border criminal activities, elevating the issue from a bilateral humanitarian fight to a BIMSTEC-wide security concern. Again, something very important which I want to highlight. If you have read yesterday's Daily Star, again, this is an issue, people moving into Bangladesh, particularly the hill districts. The session chair made a very important point over that how this ultimately affects the security not only of Bangladesh, but also of Myanmar and also of India. And of course, again, this is something which I want to highlight. People moving from Bangladesh, people moving from Myanmar. Malaysia has a very strong coast guard, so they are moved to Thailand, and from there, again, they move to Malaysia. So this is not an issue which is confined to South Asia, ladies and gentlemen, but it has ramifications across the region. And I think this is where BIMSTEC can ultimately play an important role. I mean, another important question, a question which we seldom ask, is that what is happening in Myanmar itself? We have a fragmented country. We have a country which doesn't exist on the other side of the Bangladeshi border. So who do we deal with? Do we deal with a non-state actor? What does it mean for the Westphalian system? What does it mean for diplomatic norms and rules and regulations? So these are issues which ultimately we have to take into consideration. Please also note that narcotics and organized crime, again, something which the Honorable Secretary General has pointed out, this has become a big issue. We tend to think that only in the conflict border areas of Myanmar, that is Shan borderland, for example, or the Kachin, but Shan mostly, that this is where the drugs ultimately start. But that is not really the reality. The reality is that even in quote unquote peaceful areas, you have a systematic system which ultimately churns out these metaphyls. So again, I think this will tell you the story. Please note, of course, the epicenter is the Shan state, but it has ramifications across Southeast and South Asia, Bangladesh being, of course, one of the heavily affected countries. So again, this is something which I've already discussed. I will move on very quickly. The issue of cross-border rivers, again, this is something which is going to become more important in the days to come, particularly as climate change takes place. We have the Mekong Commission in front of us, but the Mekong Commission has told us that simply by pointing out that, okay, dams, droughts, salinity, these are creating problems for countries. This creates barriers, ladies and gentlemen, and countries tend to look at rivers not as common properties, but as private properties or national entities. This creates problems. So whether we can have BIMSTEC, for example, providing quantified data, which ultimately pushes countries towards cooperation. This is again an important issue which we need to take into consideration. But of course, these are challenges. And as the Secretary General has pointed out, a lot has been done, but still a lot remains to be done. This is an ongoing process. It's a 1,000-mile journey. So security cooperation has visibly deepened institutionally, but the region's actual landscape, security landscape, ladies and gentlemen, a non-state actor as a neighbor, an unresolved refugee crisis entering its second decade, and expiring water treaties is making it harder, not easier to manage to the existing structure. The question which we should ask ourselves is, can a technical economic cooperation body evolve fast enough so that it can deal with these increasingly hard security and humanitarian issues? The Bay of Bengal, again, is a very important area. Climate change is taking place in a big way over here. Please note the last point made in this PowerPoint presentation. Bangladesh is ranked 13 globally as one of the most affected countries because of global change. This has come out as a report in the long-term climate risk index. Note, India and Myanmar are ranked within the top 10. So again, environmental issues are not Bangladeshi issues. These are not Myanmar or Indian issues. These have cross-border implications which we have to take into consideration. And of course, as you have noticed, our weather patterns are changing. A monsoon is not taking place when it should take place. Question is, if monsoon disappears, what are the implications of that for food security, for agriculture security across this monsoon-driven South and Southeast Asia? And of course, also note that climate change is making it more and more difficult, particularly when it comes to disaster management, because we are now becoming the epicenter of massive storms. Severe cyclonic storms are taking place in this part of the world. Of course, again, the Honorable Secretary General has pointed out that BIMSTEC is working on this, the Center for Weather and Climate Control that is there. Various initiatives have also been taken place. But of course, please remember that there are challenges. The challenges, of course, again, in the last point of the presentation, at the last that whether the Thimphu finalized ECC mechanism can move from a meeting-based coordination to jointly financed, implemented adaptation infrastructure, early warning system, coastal protection, basin-wide, and water and disaster management. That is the challenge. Three issues I will ask, and I will leave the audience to consider on these issues. India is bringing up a massive port infrastructure in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. It may emerge, I won't say as a competitor, but it will change the geopolitics of Southeast Asia, the Strait of Malacca, and of course also the Bay of Bengal. how Bangladesh looks at this, what are the economic opportunities for Bangladesh, particularly looking at the Galathea Bay, how will BIMSTEC be able to capitalize on this? This is something which is very, very important. Please note, it is one of the most beautiful ports in the world. You have a Navy officer is here, Commodore Razak. He will tell you 44,000 crore rupees, first phase, inseparable from India's Andaman and Nicobar command. But the important thing is, and this is it, you can see the map and you will see that how this changes the geopolitics of Southeast Asia. So you have a port which ultimately is so important that you do not even need to dredge it. So can you understand the economic implications of this, the geopolitical implications of this? I end by pointing out three important issues, again, related to the Bay of Bengal. This is something which I would suggest the audience to go to BIS's commentary, which came out in June 2026, where a very important issue has been made that we tend to look at the Bay of Bengal and the South China Sea and the Indian and the Pacific Ocean as different. Oceans are indivisible, ladies and gentlemen. We need to understand this. So the whole idea of undersea corridor, oceans becoming connected. And of course, what does it mean, particularly for sea and rescue missions in the region, for hydrography? These are issues which we need to take into consideration. Can BIMSTEC bring in Indonesia and Malaysia on this? And of course, become more effective with regard to ocean study, and of course also to ensuring maritime security. This is an area which ultimately can be considered. An issue which is not talked about, submarine cables. We are fascinated with Starlink satellite, but most of our data, these are carried by undersea cables. Note that the big companies, Google, Meta, they are building these new submarine cables, bypassing South and Southeast Asia. So you can see Cocos Island has become so important. Australia, South Africa, they are connected. Oman, that is there, because these are where the data centers are being built by these massive conglomerates. So how does BIMSTEC and the countries of BIMSTEC tap into this? Because this is the future. So how we are going to do with this? This is again a question which I think we may ponder in the days to come. I take it from Christmas, past, present, and future. Can BIMSTEC offer really something new? South Asia has three attributes which makes it well suited for integration. It has the highest population density in the world. It has linguistic and ethnic overlap across borders and presence of large number of cities close to borders. But of course, there are certain asymmetries. There are certain problems. One is, of course, the power asymmetry in South Asia, the geographical reality of South Asia, and the persistence of political and security problems. We may not like it, but these problems are there, and they often time efforts for regional integration. How we deal with this, that remains to be seen. So again, the question, the Honorable Secretary General has pointed out that SAARC and BIMSTEC, they are not competition with each other, but these are realities which we have to take into consideration. Countries will ask us to look into this. So on this, this question that can BIMSTEC prove otherwise, I will raise the question. I end with a quotation from Samuel Johnson, one of my favorite authors. He said that a gentleman who was unhappy in his conjugal life married immediately after the death of his first wife. It was a triumph of hope over experience. I hope that BIMSTEC proves otherwise. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to me.
Thank you, Dr. Rashid-uz-Zaman. I'm particularly happy that you did mention about subsurface infrastructure, something that is grossly overlooked by most organizations. Subsurface infrastructure is extremely important today because a lot is happening beneath the top of the water. And I would also request you to look at BIP's commentary on the subject, which we just published last month. I shall now turn to the second panelist for today, Dr. Qazi Maruful Islam. Professor, you have the floor for next 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair of the session, Honorable Chief Guest, Special Guest, and Director General of BISS. I'll be very short in my intervention. And at the very beginning, I would like to thank Honorable Secretary General of BIMSTEC, His Excellency Ambassador Indramani Pandey, for his great presentation on the huge amount of work what's been done by BIMSTEC in last 3 decades. In fact, while I was checking for information in the web for making a kind of a note regarding the achievement challenges of BIMSTEC for the last 3 decades, there is not much of information in the web, at least in the area of scientific publication, not much. However, while I was watching and enjoying the presentation from the Honorable Secretary General, then it gives me immense pleasure that yes, a lot of work's been done on ground from BIMSTEC, although they are not represented in the scientific research community, but they are making changes on ground. That's and for which we actually congratulate BIMSTEC and Secretariat for undertaking so many great works for the regional cooperation for the last 3 decades. However, while I was checking this literature that for making my notes, then I find 2 bias. Like I end up with in one search engine I end up with a search that gave me a list of 32 journal papers on BIMSTEC, and out of these 32 papers, there is 23 papers on economic cooperation and mostly about infrastructure connectivity in the region, and the rest 9 papers are about security. So what it shows that in the literature regarding this regional cooperation, there is a huge bias on economic growth, and economic growth actually is being translated into kind of trade cooperation and mostly about infrastructure connectivity. And the other one is about the security issues. And security covers a lot of, of course, maritime security and land security, border security issues are there as well. So with that information, my conclusion or my kind of inference, at least for my very primary kind of search, that somehow when we are talking about when we are revisiting the three decades of BIMSTEC, then we might again end up with that sort of bias that this kind of regional cooperation is about economic cooperation only, is about security cooperation. We don't undermine these issues. Of course, economic cooperation is the heart of this entire regional cooperation, and definitely the security is the hardware which combines and which put us together for this cooperation. But that's not all. All we see in the presentation of Honorable Secretary General that there are centers of excellence. There are many centers of excellence, but and those are the things, those are the institutions, those are the platforms which can deliver things which the people of this region need. Actually, we need climate change issues. We have to deal with poverty. We have to deal with health, education, science, technology, a lot of things. But very often our discussion only focuses on about this infrastructure connectivity and about the security. So that's kind of a dilemma we are facing while we're talking about these 3 decades of BIMSTEC. Ladies and gentlemen, since we have very short amount of time for my intervention at this level, so I have a presentation. I'm not really going to talk or taking you through my presentation in detail, but just I have a couple of points to make. Of course, Dr. Mahfouz Kobi has also gave a wonderful presentation on the greater, through which you can understand the wider landscape of BIMSTEC from the very beginning to till now. But before for my intervention, I have a couple of assumptions. Number one is that any kind of regional cooperation, it is not a very technical process. It is just not a diplomatic kind of communication thing. Like it is very much, it's an interplay of political power and economic forces. This interplay of political power and economic forces that actually shapes the regional cooperation, the nature of regional cooperation, number one. Number two is that within this region, we have asymmetries. Asymmetries already, Dr. Rashidul Jaman and Dr. Kobit, they also have mentioned that there are asymmetries. And asymmetries, as you see, there are countries, large countries like India and Thailand, and also the countries like Bhutan and Nepal. So these inherent asymmetries in economic size, development levels, and geopolitical influence can lead to uneven benefits and challenges in regional cooperation. So these two assumptions we have to take into consideration from the very beginning, and we have to acknowledge this very fact that there are asymmetries, and then how to deal with it, how to take it forward with these asymmetries, and within for these asymmetries, actually there is a sense of two dichotomous kind of perception may create. One is like sense of dominance, and the other side of this sense of dominance is sense of dependence. So while we are trying to combine or we're trying to strengthen this regional cooperation, then among some countries there might be sense of dominance, and of course among some member states there might be some sense of dependence. And this sense of dominance and dependence actually is one of the kind of stumbling blocks for building effective cooperation in the region. So with that sort of boundary, with this kind of situation or landscape, how to take it forward. And I was actually told to talk about trade, investment, and development, and also connectivity, and also like people-to-people connection. In fact, I had the opportunity to attend one of BIMSTEC conference that took place in New Delhi last year in February, and where we try to explore different avenues of people-to-people connection, business to business connection, and we actually explored a lot of avenues where youth can collaborate among these member states. And with that experience, what I want to make a point that just beyond that infrastructural connectivity and beyond that security kind of discourse, there are plenty of opportunities where the region can cooperate and where this BIMSTEC can leverage this enormous potential to build connection within the region for other areas, especially as I say that science, technology, and innovation is one of the major areas where we can really collaborate. However, we have today we have seen that there is center of excellence, and there are a couple of centers are proposed. But you have to find the kind of fruit of these initiatives. This is one of the areas. And with other areas, already Dr. Rashidul Jaman has already mentioned that climate change is an issue which doesn't know any boundary, and it goes across the state's boundary. And since we are one of the most vulnerable countries, not only we, the Bangladesh, in fact, the region itself is one of the most vulnerable region in the world in terms of this climate vulnerability. So this climate agenda, there are a lot of opportunities for collaboration among the countries. It's really difficult to handle by one single country. But what you see, or what we don't see at the same time, that since, although there is a huge potential, but we really don't see the collaboration between the scientific institutes which are funded by government and also by other universities and non-government agencies. Thailand, India, Myanmar, Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh, we have a lot of areas where we can work together. Actually, we need to work together, but this cooperation doesn't, of course, there are several very kind of flashy cooperation, but meaningful cooperation which can produce tangible results, we don't see them very often. So my question at this point is that how the BIMSTEC can take it forward, whether BIMSTEC can take a dedicated action for strengthening this climate cooperation among the member states. This is one of the other areas. And also, this is all like the BIMSTEC is also supposed to establish kind of collaboration in terms of science, technology, and innovation. And as you see, like these days, digital technology has gone like wild, in fact. And it has created opportunity, and also it has created a lot of social challenge and security challenge. And among the member states, we have different level of preparedness in terms of leveraging the advantage of this digital technology. For example, the level of technological development is in Bangladesh is different than the level of digital technological development in Thailand or in India. So then how the member states can take one's experience and advantage from others? How we can really strengthen our security concerns, our social issues, and our education and innovation issues through the collaboration among the member states. And we see, like being in the scientific community, being one of the member of this university community, we really don't see much cooperation is taking place among these member states. So there is also a gap where we can focus and where BIMSTEC can take revitalized action for strengthening this kind of cooperation in the region among the member states. And finally, I would like to conclude. I will not take long. I know that there is pressure, time pressure from our chief guest. That you see, this entire thing. My main argument was like, we need to take this regional cooperation agenda from this very security and economic connectivity to the greater level. And in order to do that, one of the major avenue is to establish and strengthen our P2P connection, people to people connection. And in doing that, we need to engage non-state actors through all levels. We need to engage our media, we need to engage our students, we need to engage our academia, we need to engage our business community so that they really can give the foundation for state actors to work together. So, and so this area also hasn't been explored properly because there are a lot of issues with the visa facilitation process. There is an issue of traveling thing. There is an issue with the currency exchange. So those are the practical issues exist, and with those problems existed, this people-to-people connection might not get to the level where what is expected. So these are the kind of observation I have. Finally, I want to conclude with this point that when there is this is a theory I got from James March and Ewan Olson, very famous organization theorist. They say that any political action could be taken carried out based on two arguments. One is logic of consequences, and the other one is logic of appropriateness. So when this BIMSTEC was created in 1997, there was a sense of logic of appropriateness because of poverty, because of our common shared culture, because of our common shared problems. The actors, they felt that we should create a platform and institution for regional cooperation. So there was a kind of a sense of appropriateness. The logic of appropriateness worked. But now, after 30 years of its establishment, what we see that this regional cooperation didn't really get through because of the very logic of consequences. Logic of consequences means that is very crude interest. So what we see among the member states that the cooperation is not flowing as we expected, just because of the very kind of rational, very kind of interest-based thinking. Of course, interest is the core of the entire relation, but not without compromising that logic of appropriateness. So this logic of consequence and logic of appropriateness, we hope that in coming days, they will come together and they will help us to strengthen this regional cooperation. So thank you very much, dear audience, respected guests. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Islam. I shall now open the floor for questions and comments. For the interest of time, we shall have time for only 3 short questions. So please raise your hand and I shall give you the floor. Do I see any more hands so that I can see? We shall start with you, Ambassador Shahid.
Thank you. Thank you, General. I'll skip the protocol. As you said, there is a paucity of time. Having heard the last speaker, Professor Kazi, he, of course, gave a very beautiful expose how we should proceed. I recognize all the other speakers also at the same time. You see, the 30 years have passed, and now we are ushering into the fourth decade. Each particular decade, we have achieved something. We cannot say it's all zero. We have achieved. And now it's a time, there is a very proactive government. The Bangladesh first priority is being focused. So on that basis, I think every aspect of our foreign relations is very important, including our BIMSTEC. It so happened, in the journey of our career, I happened to be one of the first summit took place in Thailand. I was there. Prime Minister Khaleda Zia attended that meeting along with all the other dignitaries. It was a very fruitful meeting. And it was in the 20s, 2006, if my memory is not mistaken, 4, I think. So I think since then we have achieved a lot. And the Secretary General has himself talked about it. And the question is, there are a lot of achievements. I will not go into detail as the General Muthiram said that, Munir Bhai said that we have to, make it small. The question is that, for example, the sharing of climate information, the river informations, and the border information, many other issues that has cropped up. If this could be formalized so that each country which is going to suffer can make necessary preparation. I see the predicament of flooding in Bangladesh. And if the information was properly transferred through the BIMSTEC or any other, whether any, pandemic, we suffered from pandemic also. There were dynamics of when the last COVID took place. I mean, Prime Minister of India invited all the regional SAARC leaders to come forward and discuss this matter. So BIMSTEC is equally important in that sense. I'm trying to draw some parallel between SAARC and BIMSTEC. Each of these organizations will complement and supplement. We cannot say that it is totally devoid.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We've got your question, so we'll get to the answer later.
Okay. Thank you.
I saw a hand here. Yes, sir, you have the floor.
Okay, I will be very brief. Mr. Mahfouz Kabir repeatedly said about the FTA between under BIMSTEC, and frameworks has been signed on 2004, but still it is not operative or formal signature, formal agreement not yet signed. At least you can initiate the process of discussion on some non-tariff barriers among the countries. You can consider it. And at second point was His Excellency Ambassador Bondi.
No, we shall only take one question from you, sir.
It's very important.
Only one question. Thank you. I saw a hand at the very last row. In the very last row. Yes, please.
Thank you, sir. My question is to the Secretary General of BIMSTEC. And the question is, in case of cybersecurity, how does BIMSTEC plan to hyper-adapt itself, which is currently very necessary after the launch of Quad Mythos, which is a security threat to global cyber infrastructure? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We shall now go back to our speakers and the panelists for their answers. Can I start with you, Ambassador Pandey?
Thank you, General. There was a specific question about cyber security. So in fact, at the last meeting of National Security Advisors, cyber security related issues topped the agenda. There was extensive discussion on the new kind of threats that are emerging in area of cyber security. So while we have a 5-year action plan There is a proposal to create CERT-to-CERT cooperation, and there is also proposal to create another platform where capacity building can take place. But I think the thrust of the discussion was that the new technologies which are coming, use of AI as well as quantum computing, once it becomes accessible, will pose a different level of threat to our cybersecurity. So how do we start cooperation with capacity building in those areas? So I want to assure you that this remains very high on the agenda for security cooperation, cybersecurity. There was a question about FTA. So actually, the constituent agreements are being discussed, as I have mentioned. There can be a case that negotiations should have been concluded long ago. But as we know, FTA negotiations do take a lot of time. And recently, some working groups have met, and there is a hope that in those working groups we'll be able to make progress. I think only these two questions where I thought I could.
Mahfouz, would you like to say anything?
So as already mentioned in my presentation, there should be a timeline, because I mean they should not in fact continue for unlimited time. So that is an important issue. And other organizations are also in fact conducting the FTA. So why not BIMSTEC? And in fact, SARC started back in 1985, but after just 21 years, so we have seen an FTA. So and at the same time, I mean in fact even before that we started at the negotiations. So and afterwards, the rounds of negotiation, exchange of the goods list and negative list. So but still we are not able, and we have in fact prepared the in fact fast track in fact liberalization up to the year 2016, and afterwards the if a normal track negotiation. So it would be completed by the year 2021. But we understand that the COVID-19 started, but afterwards, I mean that there are in fact issues like I mean the Russia-Ukraine war and also war in the Middle East. But we have to in fact we have to see the end of the negotiations and regarding the truth of origin and also the other in fact the issuing investment and also the technical cooperation and the, in fact training services. So all this should be done, should be completed at least before in fact the year 2030, because we have the Pro BIMSTEC and Vision 2030. So before that, I think there should be a signing of the FTA agreement. Thank you.
You wanted to say something?
There was a point about cooperation among our research and development institutions. So that's again a very high priority. And as I mentioned, for example, recently we have been able to create a network of our agricultural R&D institutions. So this initiative now will be repeated in other fields also, where we'll try to connect our institutions which are focused in R&D in those areas. For example, in health sector and in other technological fields. So we have taken initial steps to achieve this goal.
Thank you, Ambassador. Rashid, would you like to say something?
Thank you. Like I said, I mean, I'm not putting SARC and BIMSTEC at loggerheads with each other. But the important issue is, again, I think this is something which was highlighted by my colleague, Dr. Maruf, that we need to take political issues into consideration. Today or tomorrow, these issues will ultimately come up. And whether be it climate change, for example, be it the issue of drugs, for example, these are non-traditional issues, but these have tremendous implications for the well-being and prosperity of the member states. And today or tomorrow, BIMSTEC or any other regional organization which strives for the welfare of its member states, they need to take these into consideration. Now, how BIMSTEC will deal with these challenges, this is something which remains to be seen. But of course, the process is there. If one can deal with cyber security, then other non-traditional security threats or even traditional security threats, these are issues where I'm sure that BIMSTEC can work in the days to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Islam, would you like to say something?
Thank you, sir. Just briefly, from my perspective, I think what I want to see that all this, as Secretary General has mentioned about this Center of Excellence, we would like to see them work as soon as possible. This is number one desire from our side, from the research community side. And also, since we are privileged with the presence of our Honorable State Minister of Foreign Affairs, then I would like to take this chance to make a request formally to her and to Government of Bangladesh that can we undertake a systematic review and evaluation of BIMSTEC's last 30 years before we, to come up with a really solid action plan for the next 20 years or so. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. It is now my distinct pleasure to invite our chief guest to deliver her address. And for that, madam, you now have the floor.
Distinguished Chair, I would like to thank Major General Munir Zaman for chairing this event, the seminar today, DG of Peace, and his team for organizing this seminar. His Excellency Ambassador Indramani Pandey, Secretary General of BIMSTEC, Excellencies, distinguished keynote speaker and panelists that have spoken wonderfully, and thanks for your insightful presentations. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon. It is a pleasure to join you at this seminar on BIMSTEC. I commend BIS for bringing together policymakers, diplomats, scholars, strategic analysts, development partners, and representatives of the private sector at an important moment for our region as Bangladesh carries forward the chairmanship of BIMSTEC. As BIMSTEC approaches 3 decades of cooperation, it has grown from a modest initiative on the shores of the Bay of Bengal into a regional platform of increasing consequence. Its 7 member states are home to more than 1.7 billion people and together connect South Asia with Southeast Asia. The Bay of Bengal lies at the intersection of major economic and maritime routes linking the Indian and Pacific Oceans. This geography gives us opportunity, but it also places upon us a shared responsibility. Bangladesh assumed the chairmanship at a time of profound global uncertainty. Geopolitical tensions, disrupted supply chains, economic fragmentations, climate change, food and energy insecurity, and evolving transnational threats remind us of one simple reality: no country can overcome these challenges alone. Effective regional cooperation is therefore not merely desirable, it is indispensable. At this juncture, I recall with profound respect the vision and contribution of the late Begum Khaleda Zia to the early development of BIMSTEC. Her participation in the first BIMSTEC summit in Bangkok in 2004, her support for regional trade, connectivity, energy cooperation, and people to people contact, and Bangladesh's chairmanship during 2005-2006 reflected her far-sighted vision of Bangladesh as a bridge between South and Southeast Asia. That vision remains relevant as we seek to build a more connected, prosperous, and cooperative Bay of Bengal region. The adoption of the Bangkok Vision 2030 at the 6th BIMSTEC Summit has given our region a clear direction towards a prosperous, resilient, and open BIMSTEC. The BIMSTEC Charter and the reorganization of cooperation around 7 sectors have also provided a stronger institutional foundation. Our priority must now be to fully operationalize these instruments and close the persistent gap between commitment and implementation. Ladies and gentlemen, Bangladesh approaches this responsibility through the guiding vision of our foreign policy, Bangladesh First. It affirms that our national interest is the compass of our diplomacy and that every international commitment must serve our people, our economy, and our security. Yet Bangladesh First does not mean Bangladesh alone. As an open and outward looking country on the Bay of Bengal, We serve Bangladesh best by helping to build a peaceful, connected, and prosperous region that works for all its peoples. Our chairmanship will accordingly be guided by three principles: implementation, inclusivity over exclusivity, and delivery over declaration. Our success will not be judged by the number of meetings we hold or strategies we adopt, but the practical benefits we create for the people of the region. As the lead country for trade, investment, and development, including the blue economy, Bangladesh attaches the highest importance to regional economic integration. Intra-regional trade remains far below its potential, while the constituent agreements required to implement the BIMSTEC free trade area remain unfinished more than 2 decades after the framework agreement was signed. Bangladesh will work with all member states to build consensus and inject fresh momentum into those negotiations. The blue economy offers another major avenue for shared prosperity. The fisheries, shipping, renewable energy, and marine resources of the Bay of Bengal are a shared inheritance that must be developed responsibly and managed sustainably. Bangladesh will support practical cooperation, scientific research, and capacity building so that the Bay becomes a source of inclusive growth for present and future generations. Connectivity must remain the flagship of our regional ambition. The BIMSTEC Master Plan for Transport Connectivity provides the blueprint. The challenge is implementation. Bangladesh will support progress on transport linkages and the proposed coastal shipping agreement while pursuing deeper energy and digital connectivity. This will require institutional coordination, innovative financing, engagement with development partners, and the private sector, and sustained political commitment. Ladies and gentlemen, Bangladesh has been dealing with one crucial crisis, and that is the Rohingya refugee crisis. As trusted partner and friend, Bangladesh has truly hoped that the BIMSTEC framework uh, and the members of this multilateral body shall be committed to create the international pressure needed for the safe and dignified repatriation of Rohingya refugees. Regional prosperity can only be sustained in an environment of peace, security, and resilience. Our region faces terrorism, violent extremism, human trafficking, drug trafficking, cyber threats, illegal fishing, climate induced disasters, and humanitarian crises. BIMSTEC should therefore deepen practical cooperation in maritime security, law enforcement, disaster risk reduction, humanitarian assistance, and capacity building. Climate resilience and disaster preparedness must remain at the heart of our agenda because few countries understand the human and economic cost of a warming planet more intimately than Bangladesh. We must also invest in our people. Students, researchers, entrepreneurs, professionals, media representatives, and cultural practitioners create the human connections on which durable regional cooperation rests. Easier changes, stronger academic and professional networks, and closer collaboration among think tanks can help build a genuine BIMSTEC community. Ladies and gentlemen, as the current chair and host of BIMSTEC Secretariat, Bangladesh recognizes that its responsibility goes well beyond convening meetings. We will work closely with Bhutan, India, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Thailand, as well as with the Secretary General to strengthen the capacity of the Secretariat, fully operationalize the Charter, and translate the commitments of our leaders into practical outcomes. Over the coming months, Bangladesh will work to ensure that the Permanent Working Committee, Senior Officials Committee, sectoral bodies, and other BIMSTEC mechanisms produce measurable progress as we prepare for the next summit in Dhaka. We will also seek deeper engagement with ASEAN and other development partners where such cooperation can strengthen regional value chains, connectivity, innovation, and resilience. Today's seminar is therefore especially valuable. It allows us not only to identify the challenges before BIMSTEC, but also to develop practical evidence-based solutions. I am confident that the ideas generated here will provide valuable intellectual support to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the BIMSTEC Secretariat as Bangladesh carries forward its chairmanship. Excellencies, the coming decade of BIMSTEC should be remembered not merely for the documents it produced, but for the prosperity it delivered. If by the time our leaders gather in Dhaka, we can demonstrate meaningful advances in trade, connectivity, blue economy, security cooperation, climate resilience, people to people contact, and institutional strengthening, we will have reaffirmed BIMSTEC's credibility and relevance. We have the political commitment. So let us therefore work together with renewed purpose and confidence. Let us transform BIMSTEC from a forum of great promise into a platform of effective regional cooperation, from declarations to delivery, from vision to implementation, and from shared aspirations to shared prosperity. I once again thank BASE and everyone else for organizing this important seminar today. I wish you all a fruitful deliberations. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your enlightening speech. Please accept our highest appreciation. As we come towards the end of the seminar, I would like to say that as Bangladesh continues its journey towards becoming a developed, knowledge-based nation, our commitment to peaceful regional cooperation remains unwavering, and that is exactly what our chief guest has conveyed to all of us.
Something that was flagged.
Sure.
One of our panelists have just had a suggestion that if the member states and the Bangladesh government can initiate a systematic review of BIMSTEC last 30 years. I think systematic review is needed for both BIMSTEC and SARC. I believe that, and I thank BASE for organizing both two seminars on both the multilateral bodies. And I think it's about time that the people of our country and the member states of these and the people of the member states should get some benefit of this multilateralism. Thank you.
As you heard our chief guests, that Bangladesh will be a consistent supporter of this process that we have entered through BIMSTEC. Guided by the spirit of cooperation, upholding peace, prosperity, and stability, Bangladesh continues serving as a constructive bridge amongst nations in the Bay of Bengal region. After 3 decades, BIMSTEC stands at an important crossroad. The foundation has been laid, institutions have been established, the vision is clear. It is now a challenge for implementation. BIMSTEC will not be judged by anything else but by tangible improvements in the lives of our people, which means better job, stronger connectivity, cleaner energy, safer community, and greater prosperity. Let us envision a Bay of Bengal region where goods move freely, ideas cross borders seamlessly, business thrive together, and nations cooperate with each other with trust and respect. Because true prosperity is not achieved when one nation rises alone. It is achieved when neighbors rise together. To conclude the session, it is now my special pleasure to thank everyone. May I extend our very special thanks and gratitude to Her Excellency Shama Obaid Islam, Member of Parliament, for taking the time from our busy schedule and gracing our roundtable as the chief guest, and to our special guest, His Excellency Ambassador Indramani Pandey, Secretary General of BIMSTEC. Your Excellencies, please accept our sincere thanks and gratitude. Our heartfelt thanks also go to the keynote presenter, two of our distinguished panelists, and especially to the participants who have enriched the session by your participation and your remarks. I would also like to thank at the end everybody behind the scene who have worked tirelessly to put this together. I know how difficult it is to do something of this nature. Once again, a very warm thanks to everybody present here, and that concludes the session. Thank you.
Thank you, respected session chair. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come towards the end of our seminar. Before we conclude, we have a small formality. I would humbly request our DG sir to hand over our crest to our honorable chief guest. Now I request our DG sir to hand over a souvenir to our special guest. Sir, now I request you to hand over our crest towards our session chair.